So, welcome, Agastya. I'm delighted to have you here today and learn more about you.
Thank you so much for having me, Altila. It's been a pleasure getting to know you over the last few months here that we can have this conversation.
Totally. It's been quite the interesting last couple of weeks. Getting to be in a hotel and community and make friends that we would have never made had it not been for being here at the network school.
Completely agreed. And the, the impact this has had on me is crazy. I never would have expected to have had such a time of
And how did you find out about it?
the network school.
Yeah.
So look, I've been obviously in the Web3 space for the last 2 years full time. Everyone knows biology, but what kind of really pushed me to take the step and apply was an advisor and a close friend, Richard Robinson, who was also, a fellow classmate of ours here. And he said, look, I'm joining this program. I think you should too. And whenever I listen to his advice, I always do well. So,
Wow, okay, so you knew each other before, and I, of course, know Rich, and I definitely respect him, and I know he's like a great advisor overall, so I'm glad that we turned out well for you.
yeah, he's brilliant. I mean, you've now met him for the last few months as well, but know, the guy was raising venture capital back in the 90s.
He's an OG.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know that you have also shared in your polling channels that you had been a really big advocate in the crypto space when you were in one venture capital firm at the time. You were a very big proponent to investing in Bitcoin. And looking back to what year was that?
It was around 2015, so 6, 7 years after it. But clearly you've done your research because it's not very humbling. But yeah, so in terms of my journey, right, I did my law school in Bombay, India, and I wanted to join, a typical corporate law firm, and I really enjoyed the legal side of it. Obviously, when I joined the corporate law firm, I realized quite quickly that it's not at all what Suits is on TV. And look, more power to the people that enjoy that, but I personally didn't. And so then I tried to look for a different career. I applied to several venture capital funds, and luckily there was a massive boom in fin. So I got an analyst role at a fintech venture capital, and around the middle of my stint there, about a year into it, I was obsessed with Bitcoin. And I've always been a very find the power kind of person. And so a lot of the leadership at this fintech fund was very traditional banking. And I loved making the point that Bitcoin is any regular chain, all we know about banking. So I made a lot of reports and papers trying to suggest that we put one of our tickets into a Bitcoin fund. Unfortunately, that didn't go through. But after that, I had, like I say, gotten the Web3 bug and then I've been in the space. It was only about 9,000 or 8,000 back when I was making the pitch, right? So certainly that would have been a great investment. I will just say that in my opinion, I've seen two types of people become early believers in blockchain. One is the person who has nothing to lose and wants to stick it to the man. The other is the person who has already lost everything and wants to stick it to the man. And so, I personally fell into the bucket number one. I think a lot of the more experienced people fit into bucket number two, and I've learned a lot from them.
And what was the biggest thing that you learned from that?
It's that, what we're trying to build with all these Web3 technologies isn't just a new way for someone to get rich, right? This is not just a way to remove the power from all these older family offices and groups that have a ton of US dollar, but really create a completely new approach to value. And that's what I really love about Web3. And so obviously, some aspects of Web3 doesn't feel that great, but I think the idea that we can now have new value systems that are not controlled by the central entity, which is a whole new paradigm for the world. And that's what I'm particularly excited about. And I'll just add one more point, kind of the reason why I think Alta, you and you both are trying our best to even understand the content creation game. And I think you're a few steps ahead of me there. I just started very recently, but we can laugh at content creators, at the guys making TikToks on the subway and stuff, but the reality is that this is the future. And now, by the way, the latest report says that kids between the 15 to 25 age, right, which are mean kids born between 2000 to 2015, are their number one career path is YouTube content creator. So the world is just totally different now. And just add one other thing is that Balaji really is practiced, and he's become such a master marketer because he explains these concepts in a way you just, it clicks. The digital world has completely turned everything over its head. Earlier, what was the domain of only the top tier firms now inaccessible to them. And it's made what is attractive, what is useful, what is worth money so very different than 20 years ago.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's mind blowing. And going back to even what you were saying on content creation, right? Like a lot of us are not doing it for the views or for the subscribers, but it's more for how we put the content, even though we know there is so much noise and information out there. But the goal is to attract the right people that resonate with that message. And if it's not that many, that's okay. But if you get a couple of them to really come to your channel or your audience to build in this like community way, that's already a huge win. And it's pretty mind blowing to think about it when you zoom out and notice that yes, Web3 investing, content creation, all of these things are now accessible to us. And if we're not able to connect with audiences directly, same way as like we have access to all of these forms of investing directly, then what's the point? What's the point?
So brilliantly said. And I would say that in terms of, you've started with that point on content creation, finding the audience that matters for you and what you're building. As often happens nowadays, I relate that honestly to our first lecture from biology, where he talked about cloud cartography and the idea that 150 years ago, your physical neighbor was who you were most similar with. You were all from the same background. But nowadays, that's not the case, right? You and me live technically thousands and thousands of 10,000 plus miles away, yet we're so similar. Much more similar than I think my neighbor back home and maybe for you too. And so all of these internet mediums that are there for you to put content out give us a way to act people that we are truly similar with.
And now you are even building, you had finally found a way to intersect the modality of technology and medical and health. So tell us a little bit more and what your work is.
So it's less about figuring out the best, tool or code to write, but more about what can we really deliver using the Web3 frameworks. And that's what I love. And I'm really excited about that. And particularly looking at the healthcare space I'm involved with. Unfortunately, the healthcare industry right now is so broken, right? The largest players only make money when you're sick. And then compound that with the fact that it's not just the healthcare industry that's trying to keep you. The entire world is just filled with incentives making you a sloppier version of your true self. The Netflix CEO famously said his biggest competitor is sleep. And social media companies make money with you scrolling endlessly for hours of the day. Really, what Web3 enable, once we get out of the walled gardens, is a way for the user to own data and then to really decide how they choose to deploy it, not based on these various dark patterns that are in place across the world. As we scale up the tech and figure out how best to deliver it, the opportunity is endless. I'll just add very quickly that for a lot of the founders here at the network school, the missions are so deeply personal because we've seen how these failed and misaligned incentive structures have led to real problems in our lives. The opportunity is huge, but now it's really time for a lot of us to put our heads down and figure out the best way to really deliver these new solutions.
And what was that thing that you felt connected to personally that drove you to get involved in the
So look, my grandmother was a very important person to me. She passed away, unfortunately, 6 months ago. But only after she passed away did I realize that she's, the last couple years of her life during with various chronic diseases. All of these were preventable, reversible, with the right approach to treatment. It's just the right approach to treatment was never shown to her. I do believe the old systems or even the current systems in place for that, especially what we're building a universal health token. The idea is to create the incentive structure we want to see for prevention and preventive healthcare instead of the sick care model we have in.
Thanks for sharing that. Do you think that we can share that sentiment all over the world where it's incredibly exhausting to have to be doing damage control with our body and our health, and as opposed to being able to get ahead of that and prevent that? So tell us a little bit more on how do you envision what you're building to help humanity by utilizing or changing our approach to preventative.
Great question, man. Thank you so much for giving me this forum to talk about it. I'll start by saying that in an old book by biology or by someone writing about biology or anthology of biology talks about how the only finite of mankind is because we're all going to die. And so for many centuries, the main thing we looked for is how to expand or increase life. And, Brian Johnson even talks about don't die because there's so many brilliant things coming. All we have to do is not die to really benefit. I will say at UHT and with my partners, we have a slightly different viewpoint, which is there's no point extending lifespan if it means that you're going to be suffering for a longer period in your old age. You want to have a longer, youthful life. And so our belief is preventive healthcare is the only approach to guarantee that. It's really, really simple. And most people, hear preventive healthcare and they may think it's some deep, difficult topic to really understand or get into, but it's really just four things: exercise, nutrition, sleep, and mind. If you do these four things on a daily basis in some shape or form, you will live a much happier, much more fruitful, much better life. And the only reason we don't do it is because the world is just filled with all these incentives push us to be unhealthy. You know, um, I have to say the biggest change in my life has come in the last 18 months, daily meditation. 15 minutes of just sitting there with my eyes closed while trying not to think has just improved my clarity of thought tremendously. And it's crazy and it took me this long to start doing it. But the reality is, it's only recently become part of the conversation ever since COVID. All dimensions of wellness is finally coming to the the popular thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a world that right now we're living in that has awakened a lot of people in their shift of thinking since COVID because it makes you wonder, like, what am I doing with my life? Then it makes you question our existence to the core of longevity. And what you said is super important. It's not about the lifespan, it's about like having a good, healthy, enjoyable period of those years. And I think of my parents, I think of my extended relatives and friends whom I see be sick, and I just wish that they can enjoy each of those days, not suffering. So this is why it also got me interested into what you're doing because it comes down to the health and the longevity that we're all striving for, and also very much in line with the type of people are here at the school who came with the commitment to go to the burn sessions and get better and get fitter because we all want to live a healthier lives.
For sure. And also, I know both you and me are quite consistent, and we've been consistent for a while before, and we know the hardest part is just getting your foot through the door. Once you're there, you're having a great time. But waiting out, walking over there, that is the tough part, and we just need to make it super easy and accessible for people to do it.
It's like brushing your teeth. You get to a point where you don't think about it, you just do it.
Yeah.
Or if you think about it, it's about the scheduling on what time of the day, but you don't question it. Should I or should I not? Because for me, after a week had gone by, and if I had not worked out at least 5 days a week, I don't feel good. Like there's something in me that does not feel good. So I have to go. And I am glad that that's a part of your mission to get people into the habit of taking care of them.
Yeah. And I mean, look, it just makes such an impact, right? I am job that pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, insurance companies, so many of them still don't, push people to do it because they'll just save their bottom line. Entrenched industries are entrenched for a reason.
And with that vein, who do you see yourself partnering with, and who do you see yourself collaborating with in order to bring this into the world?
It's a great question. And part of the beauty of Web3 is the interoperability it provides. So we really tried to a very open approach to who we would look as partner. We've also tried not to dismiss anyone who's interested in participating in our ecosystem. With that said, the easiest partners are those that you would call healthcare payers. Every country in the world has what you call a healthcare payer based on the healthcare system. So the UK is what we call a government pays. The National Health Service, they're funded by the government, pays for all healthcare. In the US, it's an insurers pays model, same in Canada, where the insurance company, in that sense, fronts the bill for all healthcare. India, unfortunately, is not an insurers pays model yet, but it's a private individual pays model. Whoever's paying the bill for healthcare, this person or entity wants to find long-term solutions to the current issues of healthcare. And I haven't spoken too much about that, but 2 years ago, the UN released a report that said the number one cause of global mortality, meaning the leading cause of death, is chronic diseases, like high blood pressure, diabetes, diseases that cannot be treated effectively with pharmaceutical medication alone. They require some change to life. Because these chronic diseases have proliferated and increased in incidence so much, we're seeing across the world more and more money spent on healthcare every year. But the end user, the population, you and me, and my watching, we don't feel that we're getting value for that. Last year, I believe the UK spent close to 15, 14% of GDP. 5 years ago, they would have spent 6, 7%. But everyone thinks the healthcare system's gone worse. So I think that the natural partners for us are those that are incentivized to find solution to this kind.
And who do you see yourself in terms of like geography being your target market? Is there like a particular strategy that, because I know you're based in Singapore, is it going to be Asia based, or how do you see that panning out?
So look, we've had some strong response already from the Indian user base. That's kind of how we initially scaled up. But I see this because we're a digital first product, right? I see us being able to scale globally quite easily. Obviously, most of the team is predominantly English speaking.
I mean, India alone is huge market. That is massive.
Not to mention they're unfortunately the diabetes capital of the world.
I'm seeing, trying to. And something that you have mentioned in the website is that you're aiming to gamify it. So can you share more on how do you see that panning out as a user gets involved and tries to go through this fun process of gamification?
For sure, for sure. So by the way, I started my career in digital health working in a company called Gogi, which is one of UHT's launch and anchor partners. And Gogi is led by a gentleman called Vishal Gonda, who's taught me a lot about digital health, but also motivation in general. And the way he looks at his users is they're all players in a game of life. And so, even in all of his meetings, all of the internal discussion they have, they reference their user base as players. And the granular level, looking at users like that provide immediate gamification into your business approach. Now, in terms of UHT specifically, one of the way, and we try and employ gamification in all areas, what I think is important to distinguish between is that there's dark patterns that help you get more revenue, which a lot of companies call gamification. But that's not really gamification. Gamification is about making it more fun, acceptable, rewarding to participate in certain user journeys. So with that said, we modeled our initial business at UHT very much on an airline reward program, and created our own loyalty program for the healthcare industry. And so just like your airline reward have silver, gold, platinum, etc., we have our own framework, which we call the SAFE framework. So users or players, they start like sedentary and they move up this SAFE ladder from sedentary, active, fit, and elite. And at each level, they get access to more and more rewards and they get more and more benefits for kind of being healthier.
Wow, I love it. It takes me back to that old Google classes I used to attend back in my college days for rewards and user retention, that it's now being implemented in such a fun way in Web3 for health, as opposed to getting your Star Wars rewards type of loyalty program. But this is like a loyalty program for yourself. Sounds like you're committing to your own health more than anything, which I haven't heard of before. And you get to earn a reward. I mean, that's like the best part. It was pretty appealing to me.
Certainly, certainly. It's like with many startups, it's almost surprising it's not been done before.
And another thing that we always say here is if you cannot find something, then you go make it.
Yeah.
And sounds like that exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, certainly.
Well, is there any particular thing that you're looking forward to in 2025 before we wrap things up?
And there are a lot of things, but certainly we are looking at taking UXT to the next level with what we're calling the Proof of Health protocol. So the idea very simply is to give users access to their own data for the first time ever in the healthcare world.
And well,
Really, what we're trying to build on is be the first layer of on-chain health innovation ever before seen. So please do keep an eye out on our website or Twitter channels to keep updated on what we're planning.
I love it. Like in the true dream of having ownership of our medical records. And I could go and tell you about all the stories on these labs in Canada that got hacked and so many people's information got stolen and it's this huge serious issue out there. So I'm very glad to hear that you have gone on this train and that you're making a change that is going to help a lot of people's lives and keep their peace of mind, you know, in a place where they can sleep at night because that cave was so harsh. So I can totally understand what you're doing here to make seeing the dark side of what can happen when you don't have ownership of your data.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, where can people find you and how can they get in touch with you?
I'm available on Twitter anytime. My DMs are open. And of course, our website, uht.xyz, will have the info on everything we're up to.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Betsy, so much for being here with me today, and we'll stay in touch. And until then,
Lovely. Thank you so much, Alton. Had a great time.
bye, everyone.